Hello.
Hello. How are
How are
you?
you? I'm okay. Hanging in there. How are you?
Me too. That's okay. And like first, like, do I look 80s or 90s right now? Kind of a
um, is there a way to say that in a funny way? Schmindies,
no,
90s, 80s,
no, not
90s, 80s? You're the 80s.
sure. I was like, I don't know. I'm really bad with mashing things together. I'm out of it this morning. I
I'm so out of it this morning. I'm
really
not gonna lie. Oh yeah. Oh
how
yeah.
are we both having our period? Like,
Well,
I'm
we're both having our full moon cycle for sure because it was a super moon last night.
yeah, actually, and yeah, that makes sense because yesterday I was very off all day and the night before a little bit as well. But yeah, I did not sleep. I was tossing and turning all night. I mean, I kind of slept. I had some really whacked out dreams, which I always do, but
Ooh, whacked out dreams. Do tell.
I don't really, sometimes I don't remember them. I just know I had a very restless sleep with some weird dreams.
Yeah.
If I do remember them, they are weird for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Pretty, but sometimes pretty cool. I think not that long ago I was with Ryan Reynolds. That was nice.
Mm.
And then I was with Mark Ruffalo. Do you know that actor?
Oh, I love Mark Ruffalo. Oh, hello. Mm.
I know. And so I don't know. I'm not going to complain about those dreams, but
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not.
no.
Definitely don't. No.
How come you're out of it? What's up with you?
Well, because I think I've been so active on my bike and really active, just walking a lot, spinning 3 or 4 times a week, and all that, all those things, and just being very active and social. I think just being engaged, it takes energy.
That's a good reason to be out of it. That's not bad. That's
I
good.
mean, I know, as I said to you the other day, and you were like, I don't know what the hell you just said. I was like, my legs are turned up and swole, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Understand your on your text.
I know, I know. I was trying to be like Gen Z or whatever, or millennial or whatever.
Obviously, I am not that age demographic, so I was like, "Are you speaking gibberish? What the hell are you saying?"
Well, I'm not even gonna tell our viewers what we were talking about the other day. That when you said, "Yep, you are definitely younger than me."
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm surprised you're still talking to me.
You, but yeah, but I mean, from our first meeting,
True.
I mean,
Touche.
the hot flash comment when we first met. If I didn't know or think that was going to continue for our entire friendship, come on,
Yeah. True Shay. True Shay. I'm gonna start saying.
Shay, I like that.
So our guest this morning is someone that I've only actually met in person once. However, we've had correspondence and have stayed in touch even before and after that time we had met. Brian Carew, sometimes just known as Carew Movement on Instagram or Carew_movement, is a gentleman that lives in Vancouver, BC, in downtown, and is a certified respiratory therapist, and formerly more so now because he is now a very professional industry leader in the form of movement and fitness, but also is a yoga teacher, but doesn't lead with his yoga teaching or his yoga education in what he does with his professional fitness movement background. So,
Now, yeah, now to clarify, because I had to look this up and I'm still trying to, I want to get more of a clarification from Brian as to what movement, is it flow movement?
so what it is basically movement flow was created by another local yoga teacher, Slava Golubov. And Brian, I don't know when Brian got involved with Slava, but they've been connected through the acro yoga community for quite a while. So I think it stemmed from acro, and then Slava himself was in construction and it was very inflexible, and then just started practicing movement and yoga. And then in a short period of time, like in the course of a year and a bit, became extremely mobile and just kept running with that sense of development and training,
Yeah.
and became a very well known teacher in terms of his craft of movement, specialization of free form movement without any specific kind of terminology to it, I think, other than acro.
Yeah.
And then he, anyways, but this is about Brian. But so Brian connected with Slava at some point, which he'll talk about, and they started working very closely together as acro partners, I think. And then Slava created his own form of movement training, movement modality, and movement flow, which I don't know a ton about, but I do know that within the last year, the movement flow has been registered as an actual modality that people can be certified and trained in, which is really neat.
I saw that.
Yeah.
It's like a very, now when I mean, oh my God, like his Instagram is just beautiful. Like
it's gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Just the lines and and actually I believe he was a contemporary dancer. So I did, so I do want to talk to him about that as well. Like there definitely is a background in dance and I kind of see that as well. So, I think that, and I do want to talk to him about this too, about the fine line between what yogis think is yoga and like, this is not really yoga, right?
No.
Yeah. And
it's connection. But it's not a practice of yoga as far as what people would deem as yoga. You wouldn't go to a practice and think I'm practicing yoga.
No, and I love that there's a difference, and they've made that difference. What I see though is that this, I could correct it. I corrected. It looks like a very advanced form of movement.
Yeah, it looks very advanced. I look at it and I'm completely intimidated by it.
Me too. Okay, so that's something that I do want to kind of hopefully. I don't want to be, sound like I'm, I don't know, not bad mouthing the modality, but that's I think of is exactly what you said.
It's the perception. It's the perception, right? And I know that they're all about debunking and breaking the stigma that the creative expression through movement is inaccessible and that it's not friendly for those that are maybe not, especially because the people that are, the guy that created it, Slava, was someone that was very immobile and stiff and not very movement oriented whatsoever. So clearly there is a way to train your body and to condition it to do whatever it wants to set out to do.
Absolutely. I'm very intrigued by this, very much so, because, yes, it does look intimidating, but it also looks like something that I say to myself, oh my God, I wish I had that movement.
Exactly. And one thing that I really am intrigued to chat with Brian about, provided he's an open book about it, is this the fluidity of gender, sexuality, and human connection. Because I find that, and even he's been very open in the past in his social media about connecting with lots of different people, and primarily those that identify as female. But I know that there is a lot of fluidity, regardless if it translates to same gender, same sex. There's a lot of expression and inclusivity in his language and his way of connecting with the world, how he sees the world. And so I'm very curious to learn more about how that way of thinking, that way of feeling, that way of expression kind of came about in a way of neutrality, not putting labels on things.
I can see that. I think that especially someone who identifies as being a man or male, who has started as a dancer, I feel like this community, and that's something that you almost you learn from an early age of, it's very accepting to have men, those that identify as a man, come and dance, even if it's more of a feminine, quote unquote, feminine style of dance, like ballet or contemporary, and that it seems he's probably, I'm just putting words in his mouth, maybe he's brought that into his current modality as well. It's something that he's just kind of done. So very interesting. Do you know, how old is he? Do you know? I could ask him that question too.
I think Brian is probably in his early 30s, I would say. I would say very, very happily. I don't know why I said happy, but I would say he's between our age range, probably.
Happy.
I was like, happily. How the fuck do I know if he's happy about his age? How the fuck do I know? But anyway, he's definitely a very healthy young 30s, I believe. So
maybe he heard that. I don't know.
Nah, he wouldn't have heard it.
I don't know. Hi.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, buddy.
Sorry, I'm
Good
a little
morning.
late, guys.
Nice to
Morning.
see you. You're not late at all. You're perfectly on time. Freshly showered and everything.
Awesome.
As per usual. It's great. Nice
Nice.
to see you.
Likewise. Nice to see you both. Thanks for having me.
Of
Nope.
course. So we gave us a little bit of an intro. We are recording, as we're very candid and unscripted. As I'm not sure if you've seen other content from us, but that's how we roll. So I gave you a bit of an intro, a little bit about what I know about you in the past, and I didn't mention that me and Brian connected through a public community event probably a few years ago now, but had known of another from before and kept in touch after just through supporting another in a community, but haven't crossed paths since. So. And that connection just kind of stemmed from inspiration and, like-mindedness. So, Brian, if you want to fill in any gaps and kind of just give a little overview about yourself, feel welcome to. I just kind of mentioned what you specialize in, what you have done in the past in terms of health and wellness, what you seem to be doing currently. And then Rachel also mentioned, which I actually wasn't aware of, potentially some background in dance and form of movement or contemporary expression through the arts. And we would love for you to fill us in about anything in between that we might have not covered.
That's a really big question.
Yeah, that's how we go. That's how we do it.
And it's funny because, Brian, it's funny because I think Hero's gotten this habit of framing the beginning of our interview like that. And I'm like, yeah, but he has no idea. Fill in the gap because you don't know how we introduced you.
No.
So it'll be a surprise for you too when you listen or watch this back. But yeah, please go ahead. We've been talking this whole time. So.
Awesome. I can give you the elevator pitch of Brian Carew. Yes, so I'm first and foremost a movement instructor, a holistic movement instructor. I label myself that way because I don't just teach to the physical body. I use other modalities to reach into the mental body, emotional body, the energetic body through my coaching, my training. And I have a background in respiratory therapy. Like I went to school for that, to be a registered respiratory therapist. But I left that position, stopped practicing last October. That was just a choice of mine. I wanted to pursue these modalities of healing and teaching as opposed to a Western approach. And then I also teach people about morning routines and do some film work as well. But mostly, like, my main mission in life right now is to teach people how to move. And in regards to the dance and stuff, when I was very young, I started weight training, but I realized very early on that I didn't want to continue the pursuit of purely aesthetics. So I started exploring different modalities of movement, like yoga asana primarily, and bodyweight strength training. And then I was exposed to a gentleman named Ido Portal, who just completely opened my mind to what the human body was capable of doing. And it was a very intuitive calling for me to explore that. So I started exploring dance and capoeira and acrobatics, and then now I'm here today, a generalist mover who tries to integrate these types of moving into my practice and when I teach other people.
Wow, that's very incredible. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I hear now we're just going to dive right into it. When I hear the word movement, to me, it's very generalized. So I wonder if you can be more specific to the modality that you're currently. And sorry, I didn't mean to offend. I don't know. That's when I think movement. It's a very it's an all-encompassing word, really. I mean, this is movement. This is movement. It's, So yeah, I wonder if you can elaborate on that just a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very broad term. I like it. I'll start off with a little tangent because I do like that it's so broad, because I think that our fitness paradigm has it's gone so far in the sense of there's these ideals of moving, these certain ways in which you should be a fitness person or a yoga person or whatever. And I think that every human is a mover, just as a tangent. But movement for me, I teach movement flow, the discipline or a system, a movement language, if you will, that my mentor created. And it's if contemporary dance and hand balancing and acrobatics had a love child in Mexico, that's what movement flow would be. So yeah, in Mexico specifically.
That's fantastic. Because I was saying to Rachel about your mentor, and I'm assuming Slava is your mentor, correct?
Yes, Slava Golubov, yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, again, I've known of Slava and have interacted with him briefly throughout the last several years, just in passing in the studio culture, and it's quite phenomenal how he has also engaged the community and how he's developed his body and his connecting to the practice in such a short period of time through acrobatics and yoga, and then going into again movement flow, and then bringing people into that tribe and community that you are a part of and also are now a facilitator of. You're one of the main faculty members of that group of people, which is pretty phenomenal.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Yeah, it's like on that note, I think when you have like a really clear vision or a clear path for yourself, like when I moved to Vancouver, I had like a very specific mission in mind. I was like, I want to find out who's doing movement here. I want to imbue myself in the existing movement cultures, which I thought was going to be yoga, and it was. And then start to build that culture and that community here. And I saw Slava starting to do that. So I very quickly made it my mission to figure out what he was doing, how he was learning, what his background was, befriend him, and then tell him that, hey, like I would really love to be your mentee or like learn from you. And then over the years, he was like, I will eventually develop like a movement system. Just wait and it'll come. And then, at the end of 2019, he created that system, and I was like, I really like this. So I think I'll use this as a vehicle to, continue the mission that I have in mind.
That's so cool. I didn't realize it was only because I've known Slava through Joe Sarah. Do you know who that is? Joe's like one of Slava's best friends. They've known each other for many years, but and we're going to bring it back to you, of course, but with Slava, like just knowing Hiro was saying his background in construction and like just not in movement and being so stiff. And, and I've seen your Instagram is gorgeous. Like, it's just, all I see is just beauty, human beauty. It's just beautiful. But I also see something that is maybe a little bit intimidating to practice. I don't know if you've heard that before as well. So, and when I see Slava, like, I mean, both of you guys, like, it's mind blowing, like what you can make, not what you can make your bodies do, but what you've been, that sounded really weird.
No, for sure. I see what you mean.
And my point is, I guess hearing Slava's story, it does make me feel like maybe it is a bit more accessible because he came from being a very stiff person and not being what he is today. So do you have people that approach you that are like, oh, but I can't do that? And I mean, do you start very basic, I'm assuming, or how do you kind of get over that hump of somebody being pretty intimidated perhaps by it?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. And I do get people who are intimidated. And I think that's one of the byproduct a little bit from the fitness paradigm. Like, it's so funny that people will, often with yoga, they're like, oh, I'm not flexible enough to do that. And I'm like, that's why you should do it, yo. Like, but so my conversation with these people, or what I try to speak to, is like possibility and the feeling, like, again, the emotional body. My mission first is to, like, I want someone to feel good moving in their body first, and let go of the idea that they need to look a certain way in order to feel good in their body. And if they can feel good in their body, if they can feel comfortable in this vessel, then things change drastically. Like, the way you move changes drastically. The relationship you have, the loving relationship that you start to nurture with your body, starts to reflect in a physical manner. So I try to tell people that, like, what you see in my body is a byproduct of a decade of exploration and dedication to a certain specific craft. And there's areas of that person's life where I'm sure they've dedicated other ways of artistry and expression. But if someone wants to move, then they can. It's just a matter of embracing the process and knowing that it's like you will bloom and learn how to move in different ways than I could ever move. So that's the beauty of it. We all have like a unique way of moving our body.
Yes. I love that. And I love that you differentiate the difference between, like fitness and a specific, I don't know, yin, whatever that may be. Like, I love that it seems like what you do, it can be tailored towards really, really anybody and their own strengths, which is beautiful as well.
Thank you. Yeah, try. I mean, and of course, it's like always a balancing act. Like, people want to, it looks cool or it feels cool to look cool doing cool movement stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's always I think there's a deeper why. Like some people are like, I want to learn how to do a handstand. I'm like, well, why? And oh, because it's cool. I'm like, well, why is it cool? Because like I would feel more confident if I could do a handstand. Oh, so like it's a confidence thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well I've been trying to do it for like 2 to 3 years and I haven't been able to do it, and I feel like I'd be really accomplished if I could do a handstand. I'm like, see, this is more important to me than looking cool. Like you want to feel a certain way. That's something I can work with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Hero. Sorry.
Well, no. I mean, that's how we roll in the podcast. It ebbs and flows. But as you're talking about getting to the holistic portion of movement and teaching, I mean, I can relate in some ways myself. I don't teach to the physical ever. Even if I have the knowledge, that's not why I teach. I'm much more inspired by making sure people have a feeling of their emotional and mental wellness or their spiritual connection. And if they have a physical awakening from that, then that's cool. But, I'd rather have someone say, I appreciate how it felt to be in the space you were holding versus them saying, thanks for the great workout.
Yeah.
Then they go to a fucking gym. I'm not here to create you a workout, but if that's what you're looking for and you feel fulfilled, then that's great too. Like I guess I did my job. So it's kind of interesting when you're talking about holistic movement and you're not comparing it to fitness. How do you find, and you kind of just answered it, but how do you want to be inclusive of all kinds of people. So have there been situations you've been in where someone might say to you, I'm only interested in the physical, I don't care about the other sides of it. Do you still create inclusive space for them to explore themselves? Or do you feel there's a conflict in your scope of practice in terms of you might suggest them to someone else in the same modality that maybe is less holistic, but more anatomically based, or you know what I mean? As any teacher might.
Mm-hmm. I think it's such a good question. And so for me, like getting leads or working with clients, like I do my best like to always create some sort of understanding of where the person's at, again, like their why, because I don't just want to like teach people and have that as a monetary exchange or a very like what's the word, like transactional. Like I want to understand like what this person, again, like what's motivating them to do this and why they want to investigate this process, so that not only is it enjoyable for them, but like I want to enjoy the exchange too. For me, it's like my first rule is like I want to have fun, and then I want to create value and impact in these people's lives. Money is the third thing. So if people are not open to these things, I usually tell them like, you don't need to be a spiritual person, or like you don't need to believe in these things, but like how I imbue the holistic stuff is like I prime someone's mind. I'm like, we're just going to sit down for a second, we're just going to breathe so that you can get focused. Okay, cool, no problem. Okay, think about a time when you felt really grateful in your life, and then the emotional body is now engaged. They start to create those neurotransmitters, they start to feel a little bit better. I'm like, okay, now you know what gratitude feels like. Now imagine after this session your body feels amazing, and you feel free in your body. Like I know it's just like imagination, but like what would that feel like? Now we've primed them to have a really great session. Like they've already imagined the possibility where it's occurring. And it's like, you don't have to call it meditation, you call whatever you want. Like, so some people are like, yeah, let's do spiritual stuff, and they feel comfortable labeling that. Other people, I'm just like, I'm just going to set you up for like a more productive way of working out. Mm-hmm. So, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
I love that. How do you bring your respiratory therapist, anything that you, I guess, were doing in that realm of work to what you do now? I'm assuming you probably do, because it was interesting how you said, you decided to go from like, I don't know, I'm putting words in your mouth, but almost Western medicine in a sense to doing now. So was there a catalyst? Like, was there something there that really kind of made you rethink what you were doing, or how did that kind of transition happen?
Yeah, I always knew I didn't want to do it forever. Like this was, I always knew it would be like something to allow me to transition. Okay. But I do use a lot of that knowledge, and I really appreciate being able to work in that environment, especially the opportunity to be so close to death, because I'm the person who pulled the plug. I worked with a lot of transitioning humans, and like you could say, it's like the gatekeeper of sorts. And like I feel like that was part of my dharma. Like when I was young, I always felt very okay around death and dying, and it was a beautiful experience because I wanted to like understand what that's like to hold space for people like that. So there's that element that interestingly enough like allows me to hold space for when people are processing, because I think there's a lot of like coddling that can occur in our dynamics of being a trainer or a coach, and like When someone's struggling with something, of course I'm compassionate, but I'm like, they need to go through that. That's okay.
Yeah.
And then the breathing aspect, most people just don't know how to breathe.
Yep.
And that's like Western and Eastern philosophies, but having a good understanding of like the cardiopulmonary physiology and then bringing that into like what I've learned through Eastern philosophies. Yeah, people move a lot better when they know how to breathe. And there's just simple little things like most people are chest breathing or they're mouth breathing chronically, causing like a bit of a low grade stress state. So just like these little things that I can add in to help people, to remind them that, breathing through your nose consistently is better, or like having a continuous breath through your practice is going to be way better for your body. And so, yeah, I definitely bring those things in when I can.
Fascinating. It definitely makes sense. And again, with the background in yoga as well, it gives you the connection to blend that into a more contemporary form of movement, and then kind of bringing the ancient traditions into the modern ways of movement,
Yeah.
So I know that you have done some virtual trainings, perhaps some mindful in studio trainings through the pandemic as well. Can you speak to that a little bit of what are the precautions you've taken with safe space holding and health and hygienics, and also the contraction of the virus? Because that is definitely something that you are moving in a free space, not confined to a single piece of rubber mass manufactured somewhere in the world. Like you're actually moving in a whole space, right? So I'm
Mhm.
curious how that has translated, especially in an indoor setting.
Yeah, it's been interesting. And it's funny because I decided to leave my career during a pandemic.
Mhm.
Most people, a lot of people are like, "Why are you doing that?" Um, but sometimes the heart just calls to do something. You listen. But yeah, like transitioning online has not been so difficult. Like I was the one who suggested that we shift a lot of Movement Flow's business online, and it was a good
Mm,
decision. And as much as I prefer to do in-person work, and I still have the beautiful opportunity to do so, with like select people and like keeping my space clean and just, that type of thing. The online trainings have been very eye-opening in the sense that like I can't be there with someone, so they do have that opportunity to feel very empowered. It's like they are doing the movements, they are doing the practice, and it really does test my ability to vocalize what's going on in a movement experience. And I will say that like I've actually been pretty impressed with like I always close with some sort of reflective or energetic practice, usually qigong, and I do
mm.
get lots of people being like, wow, that like really like they feel what's coming across even on the screen. So I've been really pleased by that. As much as I would, I believe that a lot of this disconnection, there is a cost to a lot of the things that are going on here, and that's a much deeper conversation.
Hmm.
But it is promising to know that we can affect the emotional body and the energetic body through these mediums as well.
Definitely.
Have you broadened, because you're doing things online now? Are you getting, I don't know if you want to call them clients, students from outside of your Vancouver realm? Like, I'm assuming maybe now you've been able to open it up maybe more globally, so to speak. Have you been getting more attention with students that are outside of Vancouver, I guess?
Yeah, that's also the benefit. Like now I have people from all over the world that I get to work with, which is
Hmm.
pretty amazing. And same with Movement Flow. Like our we have teachers in Europe, in Asia, Japan, South America, like everywhere now. It's really amazing, and it's like we're still pretty new, but now I was like the first line of teachers, or I was myself and Iris, Slava's partner, and kind of like co-founder of Movement Flow. Us three were kind of like the head team, and I was in the first teacher training, and I kind of like took that on pretty seriously. The other teachers, they're a little more slow about it, but now we have like the second stage of teachers, and it's like it's interesting. It's really going to start to grow in a beautiful way, I think, and the online space has really allowed that. It's given it breath.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's take it back a bit because you mentioned about when you moved to Vancouver. Where did you move from? Because I'm really curious. Where are you from? Let's go. Who is Brian before Vancouver?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a BC boy. I was born I moved all over like interior and the coast. So I went to school, or sorry, university at Thompson Rivers, and I was living in Kamloops for 5 years. But prior to that, I was actually in Maple Ridge. Went to the interior, and then I came back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. I live in Vernon.
Oh, I got married in Vernon. It's
No,
funny.
no,
Yeah.
Really?
where, where the heck in? Well, I mean, obviously the Okanagan's beautiful. So where
Mhm.
was it? I'm just curious. At someone's house, or was it like a
It was a very nice park. It's a very known park. I can't remember what it's called though. Uh,
Cal Park, Kalamalka Park?
I think so. It's right on the water.
Probably. I mean, Kalamalka Lake is one of our. I mean, we've got Lake Okanagan that we're right up against, and there's Cal Lake. So I'm assuming it's pretty stunning over there. But cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and also again, because when me and you met, again, and this actually I was wondering about this. I'm not sure if this is connected to that or not, but I know that for a while you were also doing some modeling and exploring yourself and your sexuality, your body, and art in creative ways as well. And when we were in preparation for our chat, I noticed that wasn't an active account anymore, or hidden, and I didn't realize that you had gotten married. So was that quite recently, and was that part of the transition in terms of not sharing that side of yourself to the public, or is that completely unrelated?
Oh no, I sit pretty open about it. Like I got married when I was like 21, but then
Oh,
we realized that we we were like we didn't know what we were doing. We're really good friends now. It's actually been a very like beautiful unconscious on our conscious uncoupling process. Actually just went to Kamloops to like finalize our divorce. But yeah, we were just young. We didn't know what we were doing. Her parents were like, yeah, they like before I even knew what was going on, I was like married, and then I was like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? So
okay.
that was an interesting learning process.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how deep I can go on this podcast, but
You can go
what
as
you were
deep as
just
you want.
It's
oh,
you.
okay, cool.
All up to you,
It's
my
all up to you.
because we, and we've been pretty PC actually, because normally depends on the guest, right? But sometimes it'll be like right off the get go and a lot of swear words and whatever. It just depends. So,
I mean, on the note of like the what was it, the like, nude modeling and that kind of stuff, you guys, I don't know if you find it interesting, but that is another area of my work is like I create like erotic content, and with the aim of again bringing more consciousness to sexual energy. There's a lot of shaming and misunderstanding of what sexual energy is, and that's like another area of my work is bringing in breath work, bringing in meditation, and showing people that like, hey, like sex is this huge experience, and we've really boiled it down to just the physical and sexualized things. When I really believe that sexual energy is like everything. Like life is natural, is sexual. Like it has to be because it's creating its expression.
Yeah.
I didn't know that actually. That's a really interesting facet of your life that I'd like to know more about. Actually, it's interesting because Hero and I just did our own podcast episode with just the two of us, and we were talking about, or I was bringing up the fact that still with Instagram and like the physicality of sexuality and all that kind of stuff, that sex, like this whole thing, the physical part still sells. Though it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
And I was just getting annoyed by, I guess, by even those that are selling, I don't want to call anyone out, but like those that are selling mindfulness or like a lot of holistic practices that are, putting on a million filters, and they're just, it's not even them anymore. It's just like I don't know, an interpretation perhaps, but not positively of what they think sex is, and how sex does still sell. And it also kind of makes, I'll speak from a woman's perspective, but it makes me feel like less than, or that I need to do that myself in order to be successful. Right. So I don't know. I know it's a different perspective as maybe as identifying as a male, but did you ever find that, especially on social media with yourself? Like how do you express yourself? Did you feel any pressure of how you do? I mean, it sounds like you're pretty open about just, this is who I am, but.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And I think like for me, my mindset of like bodies and sexuality is like, it doesn't live so much within the current way that people think of it as like we exploit these parts of our nature. Like we are drawn to beautiful things, beautiful humans, and our being animals that we are. And I think there's a lot of these things that are just exploited for marketing and for capital gain. And it makes me sad in the sense that like they could be glorified and brought to the public like they are with a different intention, and it would have a completely different resonance. Like, I think body should be celebrated, and beauty, like, and can be exposed, and there's nothing wrong with nudity, but it depends on what the intention of it is. If it's to, garner attention to sell a product, then it's a lower vibration, I would say. If it's to, like, just celebrate the human body for what it is, and be in joy of that, that's a completely different thing. But yeah, I think it goes for both men and women, in the sense of, like, when I struggled for so long, and still too sometimes, that, like, body image issues and, like, comparison. And again, that's kind of like the structure that our society's created, like, this is what one should look like. And that is a whole paradigm that I think is changing slowly, but it's like, it's so deep within our marketing system and our social media system.
It is.
Yeah, it's like, especially for women too, like, it's almost, I feel I have so much, like, feeling for women in this double-edged sword. It's like, on one side you need to be beautiful, but then on the other side, if you're beautiful and you express it, then you're a slut in a bad way. And it's like, you just can't win. It's just like, what, come on, people, like, and the women are so beautiful. The feminine energy is, like, in my opinion, like, so amazing and powerful and misunderstood. It makes me sad that that's a thing that people get on board with.
For sure. Well, and you make a really good point in that as well, though, because when it comes to male sexuality and so I guess cisgendered, in this generation, cisgendered male sexuality, whether if it's heteronormative or if it's homosexual or if it's queer, considering those are all different. I look at my channel, I look at how I present myself, and it's just me. Right, but is it sexy? Nah. Is it popular? Nah. But it's authentic and it's real and it's to the point. And then you see these other individuals that are in adult entertainment, erotic entertainment, or even in athletic industries, or even like natures and outdoors, and you see that they're just being their authentic selves too. But the visibility or the reach, the exposure they receive is so much more in terms of them sharing a message they want to communicate to the world, and that there are so many voices that are maybe heard but not as widely as those people. And so it's interesting that social media can kind of put a sense of not jealousy, but a sense of wondering, why are you not being amplified in the same way as others might be in your branding or your core messaging? So what I'm getting at is, it's nice that you have a marketing knowledge and you understand algorithms enough that you build a platform where people can see your voice and they can see the authenticity you're sharing through your pages. Because the stuff you do write, the stuff you do put up, is very profound and very holistic and down to earth, So I'm glad that you've managed to crack that kind of system and communicate it in a way that it's beautifully presented, but also without being sexual, you are selling your image in a way that it's attractive to people to want to engage with you, And I think you could speak to that about how you built your brand, how you built that platform, and what were some of the key things that you might have done based on timing or based on strategy to actually build your community, regardless of what you do, but how you did it.
I'm curious about that too, actually, because I was just saying to Hero, like, it's, and I'm in digital marketing, but I do advertising, like Google ads and all those. But when it comes to, like, cracking the code of who sees just, your regular old post without actually paying money, I'm baffled. I think it's just it's a changing or moving target all the time. So yeah, please give us your expertise if you have any to share with us.
For sure, and thank you for the kind words, Hero. I appreciate it. Let's see. Well, I mean, I think, like, it is a moving target for sure. It's, like, changing all the time, especially now. And I think one thing, like, I'll preface that people should always be aware of is that, especially social media, it may be a bit more open than regular media, but it's still a sliver of what is out there. And people, I think they could do very well in remembering that what you see on the internet and what you see on a screen is never the totality or never the whole representation of anything. And we have to remind ourselves of this all the time, because our brain will not agree with it. It'll be like, oh, that's what that person's doing. That's what their life is. That's what's going on in that place in the world. And my rule is, like, if I didn't see it in the physical, I should not assume. So with that in mind, let's see. I mean, yeah, Instagram was such a different world. I used primarily Instagram, like, when I started out, and there was so many things you could do that you can't do now. And, like, I think first and foremost, it's like like some people will post and try to use all these different tactics to get their posts very engaged or whatever, and those things can work. But for me, it's always been engaging through authenticity. Like I'm very open and honest on my stories, and then also engaging people who are following me and having conversations with people. It's interesting. It's so fascinating how people like reach out and they're like, "Oh, you actually got back to me." I'm like, yeah, for sure. That's what we're here to do. This is a social network to be social. So yeah, and I think like communities can be really powerful. Like if people are actually wanting to find engagement or grow themselves, like I've always just found like yoga communities, movement communities, shared with them and exchanged with them, and that's like a very natural and organic and fun way to bring more awareness to what you're doing or have the algorithm favor what you're doing.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you're right. It's all about like it's the give and take. There's always, and that communication and connection. And it's interesting that you said, something to you, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you got back to me." I mean, it's those people that we've had on our show specifically too. Those are the ones that we find we've had the most connections with and that are the most authentic and end up being the most successful, really, honestly. So it's great that you do that. I have to ask you about your tattoos. So where did this, because I mean, it's very obvious, like I can't help but just go and look at your neck, but I've seen your posts and you definitely are very covered. Where did that, and I've got a couple tattoos myself, but was there a kind of, I feel like there's stories to your tattoos or to why you express yourself with tattoos, perhaps.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I was always curious about tattoos. Like this was my first one, the hydrogen.
Cool.
Yeah, and so it's just a very small one. It's like kind of a double meaning. There's like the Watchman, which I really enjoy. Dr. Manhattan, I think he's an interesting archetype, and hydrogen just being like most abundant. I thought that was interesting. But there's a certain, so like for me for tattoos, it's like I like this idea of like actually in everything that I do, really like co-creation and collaboration. I like the idea of, because I'm not a painter or an artist. That's a medium I don't understand through experience, but there are certain things that are emoted through me when I see certain art. Like I really like black work, and like I do have a lot of black on me, so for different concepts. So I like the process of like coming to an artist and being like, I love what you draw and what you create and what you express. This is my concept. Can you work with that concept so that we can do something together? And that's usually what I've done is like found artists that I connect with on some sort of emotional level, or like there's an understanding there. And then in that exchange, I feel like the art comes about. So it's not like, here's a design and like put it on my body. It's like, do you feel excited about this? And, yes, I feel excited about this. Cool. It's like, that makes me feel like what I'm getting on my body is not just a carbon copy, but something we're creating together. So yeah. And I just think it looks cool. So.
Well, I cannot imagine, you've probably had this a million times asked this question, but how much did this hurt?
It's funny actually. At the time, I mean, the guy had a really light hand, so
Okay.
this was actually one of my least painful tattoos. But
Wow.
there's two things. He had a really light hand, and then during that time, I was doing a lot of qigong. Like I had built up to doing an hour of tree pose, so I just stand in
Yeah.
tree pose. And the whole intention of that practice for me was to understand, or hopefully understand, how to transmute pain into neutrality or into just enjoying that pain. And so I was like doing like 20, 30 hour, like I went up to an hour. I was doing it quite a bit. And then I went into the tattoo session, and I was very easily able to go back to that state, like find my breath and yeah, all the sensations. I fell asleep a couple times, and it was no problem.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow. That's incredible. And then the tattoo that's right on your, what is kind of the Adam's apple area. Like, is that actually ink? Yeah, that is ink. It's like, it looks like facial hair, but no, it is ink.
yeah, that's what I was
That's that's what you're talking about. Yeah, it's fascinating. What is it? What's the significance of it aside your process of getting it? What's the significance of it?
For this, I really like the inverted seeds of life. That pattern, I think, is just beautiful. How it like comes present in the cosmos, like some stars make the shape,
Right.
and then like obviously in nature, and then with the lotus, I just like, there's this artist that I like in Whistler, and I presented an idea. I was like, oh, inverted seeds of life, maybe a lotus, and we worked on this concept, and then I really liked that this was kind of like in the throat chakra area, because last year when I got this, I was like really getting into like knew I was stepping into coaching in a different way. So I was like, my voice, as I clear my voice, that throat chakra, like really owning what my voice is, like not just on a speaking it out, like, but what am I saying to my clients and my students, and like, what's the resonance of that? And, you know, I just wanted to kind of, I guess, bring that more into the physical. And I feel, I don't know if it's, maybe you guys can share this as well, but out of all the chakras, the main chakras, like, I feel like the throat for me just like never really gets that much attention. Like, you know, lots of attention on the heart, lots of attention on the solar plexus, you know, third eye, crown, these things, even the root and the navel, it's like, there's a lot of emotion or a lot of ability to tap into those things, but the throat was something I never really thought of too much. And I was like, well, I want to speak clearly and speak confidently. And I just thought it would be cool to have, you know, a visual representation.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, though. I think because me and Rachel, I think we're very similar, both energetically similar, but also just mentally as well. But for me, my throat is my main center of my chakras and my heart, the two here. And then also because I'm all about empowerment, speaking. I hate speaking your truth. I mean, yes, you are speaking your truth, but in terms of like how you phrase it, you know, like I speak from a place of just me, you know, so, and that requires a lot of bravery and courage from there, but it comes from a place of feeling stifled or feeling silence, things like that. And so I work very hard every day to make that intention to speak from that empowerment, and to not be concerned about the way it might affect other people for better or for worse. So you make a point in terms of a lot of people, don't speak up. They don't really embody the true voice that's within them, you know? Where for me, I actually find that my lower body chakras are less tapped into. I'm much more focused on from here to here. That's where I find I have the most deficiency or excess. So these parts and below it are actually less tuned into, which is interesting.
Wow, that is interesting.
I can totally relate to that. But what I have always found over the years, and it's actually something that I wanted to talk to you about as well, is because Hero and I are very open about our own mental health. Now now I'm getting all
Verklempt.
What's going on here? We talk a lot about our own mental health challenges, and we talk a lot about anxiety and depression and nonverbal learning disorder, which Hero is very open about for himself. And for me, like the whole throat chakra thing, like that's always been on the same, I guess it's because, look, now I'm having trouble speaking. Oh my God. What the heck am I trying to say? It indicates my anxiety. Like that's where I've always felt my anxiety and my stuckness. I know that's not a word, in my throat chakra. So that's kind of where that whole thing happens. Now, I guess what I was going to ask you before we were talking about this is when you get, you work with people, do you work with a lot of people that maybe approach you because of mental health first? Like, is that something, you know, they've approached you and they said, yes, because it's funny, that's kind of how I got into even yoga. It was more the mindfulness meditation because I dealt with generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, those kind of things when I was very young. So I needed that more than anything to address the mental health challenges I was having. So I wondered, like, do you work with a lot of people, and especially now with the pandemic, more and more people that are needing to get over some of those things or to work on those things?
I would say yes. Like, I mean, I think also the way that I write too, like I do write a lot about self-actualization, or like the practice of getting to know oneself, or the inevitable struggles that life offers. I don't like claim to or try to advertise to people that I'm going to like help, or like I'm not a mental health professional. I'll say that, but yeah, definitely. And I think like I like being open to those things because I guess, and this is another way that our society is built, is that some people have mental health, some people don't. I think we all have mental health. Like we all have trauma. We all are going to benefit from having some sort of coach or counselor or shaman or therapist working with us. And like this concept is like, oh my gosh, like this concept of like we all helping each other, and like, you know, you offering your services to me and vice versa is what makes humans so like fucking awesome, and would make us much more abundant and beautiful. That letting go of this idea that like, oh, I have this issue and I feel bad about it and I should have worked it out. It's like, no, you have that issue so that it can be worked on, and I can help you with it and recognize your beauty in that process, you know? So yeah, I try to welcome those conversations or invite them, or like let people know that like, hey, it's all good. Like we have shit for a reason. It's there to be worked on. So let's work on it.
Yeah. Did you find yoga or movement through did you have any of your own mental health challenges, if you don't mind me asking, or maybe diving in?
Yeah, for sure. Like when the whole fitness paradigm or like weightlifting kind of got me into like, I ramped up into body dysmorphia as a teenager, and then that led into like a pattern of binge eating and bulimia that was like in that for several years. Still struggle with it sometimes, to be honest. It's like a heavy coping mechanism for me. So yes, but yoga philosophy really helped me with like coming to terms with accepting my body and like understanding that the physical form is just like one part of my body. And then yeah, like coming to, I think like they say that your message is your message, and like I crave community, and I want people, especially men or male identifying humans, to understand that like it's okay to want to look a certain way, to be emotional, or you know, to give themselves permission to feel the things that they don't often give themselves permission to feel. And I found that like yeah, so working with those things and then being transparent about them, I found has been more potent than me being like, oh, I have these answers. Rather just like, hey, yeah, I have this shit and I have these things that I work with in these shadows.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely work through some stuff.
Thank you for sharing that. No, I thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Definitely. I think it's important that we speak on them, you know, openly.
Well, it does. And actually, we haven't aired this episode yet, but we just spoke with for lack of a better word, famous sports broadcaster called Michael, oh my God, Landberg. Wow. Okay.
Michael Landsberg.
Landsberg.
Cool.
What's going on with me right now? All of a sudden, I don't know. Anyway, Michael Landsberg, and he, you know, he's always put on a pedestal in his industry and being on television all the time. And so he's been also very open about in the past like decade or so, his whole thing is being sick, not weak, meaning my thing that I've got here, my mental health, I'm not weak, but it is something I have to address. I don't know if I like the word sick, but I know what I'm trying to get at, you know, with that, in that respect, like it's, I guess, just to make people realize that it's not just in your head, even though okay, it seems like it's in your head, but it's a real thing, right? And we haven't really addressed that necessarily, maybe wholeheartedly in our society, I think, still.
Well, it addresses the fact when you have a mental illness or a mental complication, these things are not visible at first sight. And for some people, you can see it more readily than others. But for someone like myself, you might look at me initially. I mean, again, me and Brian met, I don't know, I think it was 3 years ago, you know. I mean, there's no way that you would have been able to tell there was anything going on in the brain unless it was verbally asserted, you know. And then to see someone like because I taught, I did everything, like you can't tell. So if someone had a physical ailment of some kind, even not to make light of it, but like a cleft palate or something with their eye or something with like, you know, alopecia, they had no facial hair, you wouldn't judge them by any way, but you would be able to, you would take some kind of subconscious awareness to think, oh, okay, there's something that this person has as a story, something that they're living with, but you're not sure what it is. You look at someone with mental health, you have no idea what's happening in their brain. So a lot of people then say, well, mental health doesn't exist. There isn't anything that is affecting you, in me, in front of you. So how am I supposed to actually justify that you have what you say you have? That's the whole stigma of mental health, is that you can't see it for the most part.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I like this topic of conversation too, because I think people get caught up in these words like sick or illness or mental health, and our brain, or I feel like most humans, are like trying to always figure out what is good and bad. And there's a value to this, there's a purpose and a meaning, but then like just taking a step outside and remembering that like it all just is, like we all have some sort of trauma or mental health, and that's not a good or bad thing. It's both. It's like it depends on your perspective. Like it's an opportunity to again ascend into and become self-actualized. Like trauma and pain and mental health precedes healing. Just like suffering precedes bliss. Like these things are two sides of the same coin. So I try to see the life like that. I try to or open that possibility up to people that like we live in a world of duality. So on one side, the other side exists as well, just like life and death. Like one needs the other, and it's a beautiful thing if we embrace it. But if we start to pigeonhole ourselves and be like, oh, like you're bad because you have this, or like I have this shadow aspect of myself and I can't deal with that. It's like, but that's a part of you. Like embrace it, like try to work with it. It's there for a reason.
100%. It's always there for sure. And when you think about industries that are trying to promote inclusivity and authenticity, again, teaching the possibility or moving the possibility, the last thing you want to be feeling is that there's a discrimination for things that you don't necessarily have the ability to change about yourself. You just learn how to adapt and make the best of what those things are. That's always totally really tricky.
I'm starting to realize from this conversation, I'm just going to be totally candid and honest, that, I think some of the reasons why I'm having trouble finding my voice is because I think I've realized that I've spent a lot of my life, and I'm like late 30s now, which is scary to admit, but I've spent a lot of my life uncomfortable in my body, very uncomfortable in my body. And just talking about the body, talking about our voice is bringing up a lot of stuff for me right now. So I just thought I'd be open and honest about that. But I think I think it's something, Brian, I'm gonna have to talk to you after this episode, actually,
for sure,
on a personal level. But it's sometimes it's things that I don't even realize I'm doing, because we get so stuck in habitual patterns, obviously, that we've been doing since we were very little. But even my husband will say to me, be watching a movie or something. He's like, do you realize you can't sit still? He's like, do you realize that you're not comfortable in your own body? He like tells it like it is, but that's just the way he is in general. But yeah, I feel like the majority of people are not comfortable in their own bodies. And there's numerous reasons for that. But that is such a huge thing that we need to address. And I'm so happy that you're addressing that.
Oh, thank you. And it's an interesting world we live in. I think I really do believe that humans are capable of amazing, mind-blowing stuff. Like just look at like Wim Hof is definitely an outlier, but he is just, I think, a taste of what is possible. Like we can tap into our autonomic nervous system with breathing. Like that's profound. And there's all these other things that we like people think like the brain for a long time was very non-plastic. We know that it's plastic. Like I really do believe humans are capable of magic, however you want to label that. But the way that our world is set up, it's very, it houses us very in our physical body. And there's a lot of rules, that we must oblige to in order to fit into the world. And it's almost like, from my experience, the woo, the spiritual, which is everywhere and everything, has been kind of labeled as like, oh, that's nice, like that's interesting, like that's cool, you want to do that, you can do your meditation, whatever. I'm gonna go do real life, I'm gonna go make my money, I'm gonna go get my mortgage and have my kids, and for the most part live my nuclear family of life. I flipped on its head, and I'm like, actually the spiritual stuff, I think that's like where it's all at. I think that's like what we should really dive into. And like, because like from my experience, I've had the most riveting experiences just from breathing. And I'm like, yo, people, like there's so much over in that world of woo that we have not even, like, we've either forgotten or we haven't tapped into. So and I think that's like there's just like a world of healing, there's a world of experience that when it comes to like being housed in our body, like coming back to that concept, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of disconnect there, because we're not like practicing these things regularly, we're not revisiting our internal world, we're very much like out in this external world now.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I'm curious to know, though, is as we kind of come up to the end of the hour, which we always say every time we're surprised it's already at the end of the hour, but what are a few of your own life practices that are now synonymous with you living your daily life that keep you in your space of contentment, in your space of balance, in your space of, I guess, neutrality? What are a few things that you do every day that you could share with people?
For sure. Yeah. There's a couple things that have drastically changed my life. One is a morning routine and an evening routine. And in my morning routine and my evening routine, it's like very much like defining how I want to feel in the day, like what is important for me to do in that day. And then in those routines, having some sort of connection practices like breath work, meditation. So yeah, those routines are really, really important. And I think they can they changed my life. They allowed me to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, actually, really just those are like, I'd say like the things that are most important is like creating myself every single day. Because we as humans, we will change. There's nothing we can do about that. Like change is inevitable. It's part of who we are. The person you will become, the person you are in 10 years will not be the same person you are now. So my philosophy is, why not be a part of that change? Why not consciously choose who you become? And that is a daily practice.
And what exactly do you do in practice?
Yes, I can. For me, my morning routine is pretty specific. I keep my phone, so I have like a loft. Like my bedroom upstairs. I keep my phone downstairs, which is the first habit, which forces me to get out of my bed. And then the second habit of staying out of my bed is going to the washroom. And then I go to have a shower, and then after I have a shower, I'm like, well, I'm definitely not going to go back to bed. So then I'll do some breath work, usually a shorter practice in the morning, just like gets me waking up, like doesn't take very long. And then I do journaling afterwards, and that's where I usually ask myself, like, who do you want to be today, or how do you want to feel? And that always makes me like, it just brings up all these emotions. I just start writing like, oh, I want to feel powerful. I want to be a good teacher. And then there's what are three main outcomes you want for the day, things that would make you really excited, or some big wins. And then after that, I've had some time with myself to get connected on get myself in a good state, get connected on what I want to do with the day. And I start the day. And then something I've been trying lately, which I think is really interesting, is like after work, I think a lot of people have troubles, I do, with kind of settling down in the day. So I have an alarm that goes off at 8 o'clock, and that is my trigger to turn off my phone. And then I go to my journal again, and I transition my work mind into my evening mind. So it's like, what does success look like for me in the evening? How do I want to feel in the evening? And then that starts my evening practice, where after that I would do a meditation. I read for a minute, just a minute, and it can go longer if I want. And then I turn my phone off airplane mode and put on some music.
Wow.
I love that. Those routines, I'm telling you, my biggest fallback, I think, is the fact that as soon as I start feeling a bit better, all that goes out the window. And that's the time where you have to keep those routines going. So it's a hard habit to kind of get over. It's like, oh, I feel great. I don't need to do those healthy routines anymore. Right. And then it just slaps you in the face because a little while later. So it's really important to get over those. How long have you been doing that now?
A couple of years. And I will say so I was saying I kind of teach people about morning routines. My business partner and I have had this beautiful opportunity of like going through this process and now teaching people. But when it comes to habits, like whoever's listening to this, just a little tip, like 9 times out of 10 people have they want to form a habit. Like you want to learn how to, you're like, oh, I want to run for 30 minutes a day. Fantastic. Like that's a great goal to have, but our habits should be automatic. It should be like unconscious, subconscious brain. And the way to do that is to practice things that are very, very tiny. Like a morning routine. If you've never done morning routines, again, it's like, it can be like my alarm goes off, I get out of bed. That's one habit. That's one behavior. Immediately after I get out of bed, I drink 1 glass of water. That's like very, very specific how much it is. Immediately after that, I go pee. Immediately after that, I take 5 deep breaths. These habits, these behaviors should be 60 seconds or less. They should be like completely automatic. Once they become automatic and you don't have to think about them anymore, you can like go longer, or there's always the opportunity to do it longer. Like if you commit to 5 deep breaths, maybe you feel good, you stay for 5 minutes. But most people are not giving themselves the permission to feel successful. That's another part, the dopamine system. It's like if you constantly never do the 30 minutes of running, you're going to be like, oh, I'm just not good at forming habits. But if you make it like, I'm going to run 1 block, well, everyone can do that. Then you celebrate afterwards. You're like, yes, I did the 1 block. Awesome. dopamine's engaged, and that is like a huge part of learning.
Yeah.
It's like you need to have dopamine released in order to learn. It's a feedback system in your brain. So it's like, it's just a small alteration. People are usually wanting to do too much, but you can do like a 5-minute morning routine. Initially seems like not a big deal, but over time you start engaging that dopamine system, becomes automatic. Now I wake up, I don't really have to think about doing these things. It's just like, it happens.
Yeah.
That is awesome advice. Thank you. That's a really good way to kind of wrap this all up.
Yeah.
The last question we ask, because we're the Getting Juicy podcast, what is your favorite juice and why? Or if you were to be a juice, what would you be and why?
Ooh, it's a good question.
Body juice.
Let me think. Juice. I mean, what first comes to mind is pineapple, just because I love pineapples. But like, maybe I can give a little ode to when you were a kid. Did you just have like a favorite juice that just made you so happy? For me, that was apple juice. It's like there was one thing that I could have. Yeah, right, Hero. Like there was one thing I could have when I was a kid that would guarantee me to be happy. To me, to be happy would be apple juice. Like, oh, that was just like, no matter what was going on in my life as a kid, if you gave me apple juice, I'd be like, I feel better.
Still like that?
Oh, not so much. I don't really drink a lot of juice now. I drink like water and maybe a Zevia now and again. But like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really drink juice too much.
I like those answers though. They're both very sweet. Pineapple juice. So
They are. Yes.
Yeah, every now and again. If someone's like, I have some fresh pressed juice, I'm not going to say no to that.
yeah.
Right. You know what they say about pineapples?
What do they say?
They always say that you make it taste better.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's true. That's what they say. I always curious about that too, as an off topic thing, because I've like tried all these different diets, and I mean,
True. I gotta, I mean, okay, there's definitely, if the person has a different kind of diet, yes, for sure, those things make a difference. Right, Hero?
They definitely make a difference for sure. I mean, as far as how I have my way of intaking nutrition, I've had no complaints. So, not intentional, no complaints. So, if anyone's listening, just be healthy.
Yeah. Eat whole foods. Like, just eat whole foods. Like, if we could leave the audience with one thing, it's like, just eat one. If you can eat foods that have 1 to 2 ingredients, your life will change.
Yeah,
seriously.
Absolutely. It will for sure. And as a food intolerant, let me tell you, there's not a lot that you can eat. So that also helps.
Yeah, it makes it very simple. It's like, oh, okay, like how many ingredients does this have? Oh, 5,000? I'm not gonna eat that. That sounds good.
No.
Well, and I can't pronounce like 75% of them.
I was going to say, you can't pronounce or read it, then don't even try having it.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Ask you about, just before we leave, your painting, because I can tell just with like you're really into art, and we are too. That's beautiful. Did that?
He's a beautiful artist.
I'll show you guys really quick. I'm very fortunate in that the artist is holding these paintings here. I don't own these. His name's Jan, but this painting's actually very large. This one's the water painting.
Yeah, he's huge.
And then we have Mother Earth over here.
Wow. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, Jan Kasparek is his name.
Yeah.
Vancouver person?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's actually in Mexico right now. He's Czech. But my landlord's good friend was with him, and then he hasn't sold these, so he just holds them here, which I have no problem with.
Not at all. He's a very talented artist for sure. I remember meeting Jan actually when I was a team member at Y Yoga. He was a volunteer. That's when I first met him, and he was just starting to get into his painting. And then, well, clearly he's done very well for himself for the last decade. It's pretty amazing what he's done with his work.
No way. That's so crazy. That's so cool. That's so cool that you had that or like saw him at that point in his life. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I saw quite a bit, and not in a shady way, but I've seen I've seen him transform quite a bit for sure. It's pretty amazing what he's done.
It's gorgeous. Well, we thank you humbly from the bottom of our hearts for taking the time to speak with us this morning, Brian. So thank you so much, and continue doing all the great things you're doing, and we'll continue following you and seeing all your beautiful movement. And we look forward to running into you. Oh my God, my battery's about to die on my laptop.
That's hilarious.
Oh.
And Rachel does all the post editing. I'm just the face and the outreach coordinator, self-proclaimed. But when she gives you the links and stuff, please feel welcome to share it and bring it on your social media. And we would love to grow our humble podcast as much as we can across all social platforms.
Absolutely. Just want to thank you guys too. I really enjoyed this, got into a really good flow state. You guys mind if I mention to your audience a quick plug where they can find me and all that stuff? Is that
yes,
cool?
Of course. Yeah. Yes, we were going to ask you that.
Yes.
I appreciate it. And I also mentioned this was I love the flow of this conversation. So you guys ever want to have a conversation again, you let me know. But yeah, if people are looking for me, they can find me on Instagram at Carew_movement. That's CAREW. And then if people are, we talked a little bit more about morning routines, but if people are super into that, you can message me as well for, I do run this experience called the 5-Day Morning Motivation Challenge. Basically teaches you about morning routines. So there's that as well.
So cool. And we always put all that stuff in our show notes too. So we'll make sure that
you guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Spread the
Shameless
word.
plug.
No, not at all. Spread the word and stuff. We really are about the people we bring on the show. We want to build a community and have their voices heard and amplified as much as possible. So once we get that out, share away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for the time.
Thank you.
We'll be in for sure.
We'll have you back for sure.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah, this was I can't believe that was an hour. I was like,
amazing.
What?
We'll get even juicier next time.
Yes, more juice. I can't wait. I hope you guys have a really amazing day. And again, thank you for the time. This was awesome.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.